So we're going to be doing three things. First, I'm going to walk you through the different operations and APIs that we have repurposed for this demo today. And these APIs are APIs that were used in a previous meetup, as Philippe pointed out. And we have not touched these APIs at all, are the exact same APIs that we previously used. And I'm gonna show those to you and tell you a little bit about them. After that, we're gonna transition to Mayank. He's gonna do a demo on our low code application app builder that we have called Vinyl. And basically, the business use case that we're trying to solve here is one where instead of actually having to navigate multiple systems for you to solve or get data from a customer account related, let's say, for instance, tickets related to a given account. Sometimes, tickets some account information may reside in Salesforce, but the ticket information may be in Zendesk. Then you have to log into one system and then go to the other system and so forth. So in order to simplify this, number one, in terms of time, and number two, oftentimes also in terms of cost, because you no longer need to have two user accounts necessarily for both systems, where all you need is potentially only very specific information from one system. So it's going to be a one app that we have created using Vinyl, and Mayank is going to go over this app with you, and hopefully you will find it very useful and interesting as we have. And then at the end, Mayank is also going to discuss how to leverage the different components from Vinyl, like the data layer, the UI layer, and other layers that we have, and how we use these to accomplish the specific app that he's going to be demoing. All right, so let's jump into this. Let's discuss the underlying APIs. And as I mentioned already, these APIs are ones that we have built for meetup number 13. Philippe already mentioned that we have this recordings from previous meetups. If you didn't attend this one, I highly recommend it. We basically created a very interesting integration where we were doing some integration using Slack to communicate with Salesforce and Zendesk. And for that particular meetup, we built some APIs, which are the ones that we are going to be reusing and that we have repurposed for this particular demo using Vinyl. So that's also speaks to the power of having a microservice approach to your business, where you can build an API once and then utilize it in different scenarios in multiple places over and over and over again. So the return on investment on that particular development that you do is going to be magnified, as you can see here. Again, these are APIs that we created probably 6 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, and now we're using the exact same APIs, not touches at all, and repurpose them for this particular application. So let me discuss. We have 4 different APIs that we are using. Okay, so the first one is the one that allows you to create a Zendesk ticket. Okay, so in this case, we have, as you can see on the right hand side here, I have Cloud Studio, and it's showing the different operations or flows that are executed. And then, of course, in order to expose this as an API, we went to our API manager, and in literally within few clicks, in less than a minute, we turned this flows into an existing API that can then be called by consumers. Okay, so here we receive the request from a consumer, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to be parsing the incoming message. Okay, and in this particular case, the incoming message contains account or customer name, and also contains the ticket description, because our intent is to create a ticket in Zendesk. Okay, so we need the customer or account name and also the description. Those are the two things that we are interested in, okay, for this simple exercise. So we parse that information over here in this transformation. And after that, we have this typical controller, which basically is the one that determines what runs next. Okay, so that's basically something that you're going to be consistently seeing in the different things that we do. All right, so from here, first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be finding the account ID that is specific to this particular account or customer that we just passed, and we are trying to find it in Zendesk. Okay, so we get that information from Zendesk. Now, once we have found that account in Zendesk, we know this is the account that which we're going to be using to attach or to create a case or ticket for. So then what we do next is we're going to be creating that Zendesk ticket and assigning it to that particular account ID that we just retrieved from Zendesk. In that case, basically, we pass the description, we pass the account ID that we need, and with that information, we pretty much have created the ticket, and then we go back with a response of success. So we know that the creation of the ticket was successful. All right, that's number one, the first API that we built 6 months ago and we are reusing here. The second thing that you will see that we have used is the retrieval of Salesforce accounts. So in order for this thing to work, we also need to have access to the accounts in Salesforce. Okay, so in this case, similar approach. We have two operations. First, we receive a request. The request will contain some information that we need to parse. Now, in this particular scenario, we are actually interested in retrieving all Salesforce accounts. So we do have some filtering criteria, but we pretty much are interested in all the accounts, and you will see that in the app that Mayan will be demoing. So we retrieve those accounts, and then we put them together as a message, and then we send back a response for the API. That's basically what we do. All right. The third API that we're using is something similar, but in this case is a retrieval of a Zendesk ticket, because at some point we want to show those tickets in the app that we're building. So we need to have a way to retrieve that information on a regular basis. So this receives a JSON payload from the consumer, and once we have that payload, right, we retrieve a company name, and we use it to query then the tickets from Zendesk that are actually pertinent to that account. Okay, and the data that we are retrieving will be the ticket, the subject, the description, the creation date, external ID, and so forth. Things like that. Those are the ones that we're interested in showing. So we are querying those over here in Zendesk, and then we're going to be sending that information back to the consumer as part of the API response. All right, so this is the third API. And the final API that we are using is the one that allows you to update, and specifically in our case, to close a ticket in Zendesk. All right, so this is a very, very simple API, pretty straightforward. It's only one operation. So all we do is we receive a request, and the request will contain a ticket number in Zendesk. And then what we do is we go ahead and we update that particular ticket. And again, as I said, in this particular case, we're interested in closing that ticket. So that's why we are just hitting this update and updating it as in the status of that ticket to close, and which effectively closes the ticket in Zendesk, and then we return with a success or failure response. So those are the four different APIs that we have repurposed, and now you will get to see Mayank demo this Vinyl app and the power of microservices and Harmony in action. So I will give it up to you, Mayank. Your turn. Go ahead.
Thank you, Roberto. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay. What we're going to be doing in the next few slides is I'm going to take you through some of the screenshots and some of the bullets that we captured, that what we actually be doing in the demo. And then I'm going to switch my screen and bring you guys over to the Vinyl app, actual app that we built, and go through several components that were used to build that app. So that's the first step of the demo. We're going to be creating a ticket using the app, and you'll see how that information is transitioned over to the Zendesk. We will also be retrieving all the newly created and existing tickets in Zendesk, but only for the active Salesforce accounts. So I'm going to show you the Salesforce where the accounts are active and not active. And then we're going to be doing some changes, propagation to the Zendesk from the Vinyl UI. So we'll close the ticket and you'll see that change getting propagated to Zendesk. And we'll also see all the tickets in Zendesk for a specific customer, an active account in Salesforce in a graphical mode. So I'll show you how that graph changes in the real time, when you change the account and things like that. So let's quickly go to the Salesforce screen. So this is our Salesforce sandbox. As you can see, there's a lot of accounts on the Salesforce, but we are going to focus only the ones that are active, that says yes here. So you will not see all the accounts in the Vinyl app. As Roberto said, there's a filter in the API that we are pulling only the active accounts. This is our Zendesk screen, and this is for the customer Komodo. And you can see these are the open tickets. For Komodo, we'll create a new ticket, we'll close the ticket. So we'll see how we do that in Vinyl UI, and that change gets replicated into the endpoint. So let's go to Vinyl. This is our landing page. This is where my training instance is running. We're gonna log in using my credentials. So sign in. And this is the app that we built. We called it ticketing system. So we're gonna go into that app. And this is the page where you're going to be directed. So when I click, as you can see on the left side, these are the two tabs. We're going to be shuffling between accounts and tickets. This is the account information that's coming from the Salesforce. These are only the active accounts. When I click on one of these accounts, you can see how that ticket information is changing in real time. So every time I do a click, there's a real-time API call that's going to Harmony and pulling up the information in real time. As you can also see when I click on other accounts, how this graph is changing in real time. All that information is coming from a real-time call from the Harmony. So the Vinyl app is sending a trigger to the Vinyl, to the Harmony, and Harmony is pulling that information in real time. This app is obviously built locally in Vinyl, and this is a single integrated view presented to the user. So it really doesn't matter how many source and target systems we have. You can have more panels here, accounts, tickets by account, ticket details. You can have several more. It's really a black box to the user because all that mesh is handled by the Harmony app, and you get to get a single integrated view, like a dashboard, like a complex or a simple dashboard on your screen. So that's the real power of the Vinyl. So we saw that. So let's go to the tickets tab and try to create a ticket. And before we even create a ticket, I want to show you, we did some dry runs in the past, and the power of, over the period of time, this data will grow. So sometimes it gets challenging to find the ticket you're looking for. So there's a search capability. So if I try a keyword and press enter, it will filter down the records that has that keyword, right? So once this data grows, this becomes very powerful. So let's go and create a new ticket. And let's choose an account. These are all active accounts coming from Salesforce. Let's use a subject. virtual meetup, September 20th. I'll paste the same in the description. When I click on this save button, what's happening behind the scenes is Vinyl is inserting this record in Vinyl's backend, which is SQL Server. And we have an event associated with that insert command that whenever there is an insert, new record inserted, trigger an event. And that event has some associated rule that I'll show you. And that trigger will call the Harmony API in real time, and that API has this Cloud Studio operation behind the scenes that Robert was showing you earlier. And that operation has a Zendesk connector, and that connector will propagate this information into the endpoint. So that's the chain of events that's happening, just to give you an idea what's happening behind the scenes. Let's go back to the screen, and I wanted to show you what are the different components that are used behind the scenes to build this app. So this is the application inventory for all the components that are used to build a Vinyl app. Let's start with the data source. So a data source label is used to register a data source with Vinyl. In our case, we'll be doing those API calls. So we named our data source Jitterbit Harmony demo, but behind the scenes is all the APIs that we are calling using the app. Let's go inside the endpoint and see how did we register that. So if you can see, the Vinyl web service is really the URL that is provided to you from the Harmony API. When you build an API in Harmony, it provides you a URL. This is what it is without the endpoint, right? Because Vinyl expected to have the endpoint separate. So this is the URL, and that's the endpoint. If I concatenate this endpoint with the URL, just type account get all, that is exactly the API URL that you get from API. So that's how it's formatted in Vinyl. As you can see, the get count information and the get ticket information are get protocols. The update ticket, which we have a close ticket, and the create ticket are the post protocol. Right. So let's go look. Let's look into the tables, that how Vinyl is handling things behind the scenes. There is a concept of temp tables also in Vinyl, which allows you to build the same app without persisting information in Vinyl, right? But in our case, we wanted to leverage some of the events associated with the insert command. So that's why we use to persist data here in SQL Server. But there's a concept of temp table also that you can leverage if you do not want to persist information in Vinyl. So the parameter table is usually created no matter what. Almost 99% of the apps that you would create in Vinyl, this parameter table will be created by default. So we did not create it. But let's look at the ticket table that we create, right? So as you can see, this is the schema definitions that will be provided by Vinyl to the Harmony API, right? So like account description, all that stuff. But what's more interesting is these attributes at the bottom. This is a very powerful tool that Vinyl provides. This helps you to keep audit trails for any activity that you're doing in Vinyl. So who created it, what was changed, when was it changed, things like that. So Vinyl allows you to keep track of those changes because it has all these audit trail columns associated with the table, right? So, and let's go into the events. So we spoke about the events, that every time you insert an event, insert a record, there's an event associated, right? So the event that we used in this app is called intrinsic event, meaning every time you insert a record, it will trigger an event. So as you can see, there are several options, names of the event, but let's focus on the insert one because that's what we are using. As you can see, there's an action associated. Let's go inside that and see what did we do. As you can see, this is the information of that event. We have not used the validations, but you can obviously come here and do some validations. Things like, think about a use case that, hey, somebody's trying to give you more than 20% discount, and he's not supposed to give that discount because that's not the rule. So that's the validation rule you can do here, that, hey, if somebody's trying to give you more discount, put a constraint, and you cannot do that. So we can actually make the app so robust that a human error, we can avoid human errors, right? By providing those rules and constraints. Let's look at the actions. So this is something that you are using in this app. So what we are saying is when the record is inserted in SQL Server, which is the backend for Vinyl, create an event. So let's go, and it's active, you can see. Let's go into that. And you can see this is the query. This is saying insert into the create ticket table in SQL Server and select this information that we are going to provide. Let's go into the rules. And you can see there's several kind of rules. As you can see, the one we are using is cross-platform CRUD. CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. So you can do all those things here. This is how the table looks like behind the scenes in Vinyl in SQL Server. This is our source system. It's going to the data source. If you remember, the JB Harmony demo is the data source we register when we spoke about the data sources, right? And we can come here and look at the results here within the rules. I mean, these are all the tickets, that we saw earlier. This is a SQL that's going to be generated by Vinyl. There is no, you don't have to hand type it, obviously. You can always create some filter criteria in the SQL, right? You can use a where clause and create a filter criteria. There may be some scenarios where you have to look for an external ID from some other table. You can do a join condition here, things like that. You come to columns. I wanted to show you this. These are all the columns included, but I wanted to show you something that when you click on one of these, and if you want to leverage one of the functions available out of the box in Vinyl, you go to available functions here. And let's look for some specific function here. Let's look for a substring. And go to substring here. The reason I wanted to show you this is the same subscript function may format or have a different kind of use in different endpoints, right? MySQL uses the whole substring. DB2 uses substring TR. Oracle uses case. So what I'm trying to show here is you don't have to know all the exact functions, how they are coded. As long as you know the function in Vinyl, Vinyl will translate that to all the available functions for specific endpoints. So you don't have to remember all this, right? So that's the power it comes with. It's available out of the box in Vinyl. Let's come out of this. And let's talk about the notifications. We did not build any notification for this demo. We wanted to keep it simple, but you can have email notifications. You can have an action. Like every time there is a delete action happening, I want the Vinyl to send me an email notification that, hey, a record is deleted, things like that. Or you can have a filter criteria. Hey, whenever the there is a price increase above 20%, I need to send a notification, things like that. So you can have those kind of notifications associated with the events, right? And there can be a business rule connected to an event. So all that, you can be creative and you can do all those things in Vinyl, and you don't have to hand code most of that stuff. When it comes to pages, so pages is something, the way it lays out, right? So if I go back to the UI, this is the UI, right? This is how the pages are laid out. This is a page, this is a page. These are specific panels actually, but this is the one page, right? So this is the layout. I can move ticket details over here. I can move the pie chart over here, and it's very easy to do that. I'm gonna show you an example. If you go to the accounts tab, as you can see, this is how the page was laid out, right? I can move this over here. I can move it at the bottom, so you can be creative depending on the ask. If you go to one of these controls, this is where you're controlling ticket number, subject, status. So all this is all GUI, so you can change it. And, you can change the width, the style, things like that. how long that panel should be, how wide that panel should be, things like that. So pretty interactive, you know. Going to the menu. So menu is something that's created by Vinyl itself. We did not create it, but if you want to edit it, you can definitely edit it if you go inside the application. Let's go to the homepage menu. You know, things like if you want tickets to be on the top and accounts on the bottom, you know, here, if you want tickets to go on the top and accounts at the bottom, you know, it's just a personal preference. You can just change the order of these digits, right? It works in the ascending order. So, you know, things like that, pretty interactive. We did not touch upon the security layer because of the simplicity of the demo, but we provide a very robust security layer. You know, just to give you a couple of examples, we have the capability to configure do single sign-on, SAML. We also have the capability to configure Gmail SAML, you know, just a couple of examples. Pretty robust security layer, but we did not do it for the simplicity of this demo. So if we come back here and just go to Komodo, and see this, that's the record we created in the beginning of the demo, and it's in there. And if I go here and do a refresh of the screen, so what happened was it connected with Harmony API, send a trigger to Harmony API, and that connector associated with the Cloud Studio operation loaded that information in Zendesk. And we can come back here and you know, choose this, and we can close that ticket as well. Sometimes take a couple of minutes, but yeah, it will the same the fourth API that was showed to you that will close that newly created ticket in Zendesk. With that said, I'll stop sharing and I will transition over to Philippe.
Well, thank you, Mayank. And I think we want to talk about how long it took to do that that demo. So let me go there and then cover that. So obviously that's a very simple demo. We wanted to show capabilities, and you can see my slide, right? Correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we wanted to show capabilities with you know, creating a simple app, then mesh data from Salesforce and Zendesk together, leveraging Harmony APIs. So the creating the project took about 3.5 hours. Then after adding the API, it's very quick, as you all know. So it's a minute per API to basically identify what we wanted in terms of API, what operation it was based on. And developing what Mayank showed into Vinyl took about 5 hours, and includes we didn't do you know, a production ready type of application. We just wanted to show the capabilities, but it was pretty fast to put that demo together. So then we can show capabilities. So thank you, Mayank and Roberto, for taking us through this. So what you have seen, it's easy to create a new experience for employees or external users, the ability to bring data from different sources, and then providing you know, a more efficient way to basically do the process needed. So the alternative would be to go into several systems, several different clicks with more errors potentially. So Vinyl is a very mature product. We have developed more than 3,000 application use cases over the years, and from provisioning for sales, from compliance, you know, compliance application for services, background check for HR, or even a subcontractor agreements for procurement. All these applications are developed and ready to be used into different devices. So when we develop an application, it works in a web browser, but if you were on your phone, the screen will adapt in such a way that you don't have to, you can actually navigate the app. Obviously, the layout will be different, but you don't have to do anything to be able to make it work into different devices.